Welcome to The Explainer, where we break down big ideas. And today we are diving into one of the heavy hitters of philosophy, Friedrich Nietzsche. We're not just talking about him, we're going straight to the source, to his incredible book, Beyond Good and Evil, to really get to grips with his challenge to, well, pretty much everything we think we know.
All right, no warm-up, we're jumping right in with the absolute bombshell question Nietzsche drops on page 1. He doesn't ease you into it, he just immediately asks, hey, you know that thing we all want? Truth? Why? Why is that the goal? Why not falsehood, or just not knowing? It completely stops you in your tracks.
And this gets to the heart of what he calls our will to truth. It's this deep, instinctual drive we all have to figure things out, to get to the bottom of it all. But Nietzsche, he hits the brakes. He wants to know, what is the value of this drive? I mean, who decided truth was so great in the first place? And why did we all just nod along? He's really asking us to look in the mirror. What part of you is so obsessed with being right, with having all the answers? He suggests that maybe this quest for knowledge isn't so pure. Maybe it's not some noble calling. Maybe it's something more primal, more biased, and a lot more messy than we'd ever want to admit. So if we're investigating this will to truth, who are the main suspects? Well, for Nietzsche, it's the professional truth seekers themselves, the philosophers. He basically puts all of Western philosophy on the witness stand. And here's his accusation. He says that philosophers aren't these cold, logical machines they present themselves as. Nope. He argues that most of their thinking, even the really high-level complex stuff, is actually being pushed and pulled around by their gut feelings, by their instincts. So those giant, complicated systems they build, they're not just objective pictures of reality. According to Nietzsche, they're actually deeply personal. They're shaped by hidden biases, by what the philosopher ate for breakfast, and by this powerful, unconscious need to prove that their own way of living is the right way. And this is the knockout punch. For Nietzsche, philosophy isn't about discovery. It's a confession. It's a memoir disguised as logic. It's an unintentional autobiography where the philosopher's own deepest beliefs and prejudices are the real seed from which the entire, massive intellectual tree has grown.
Okay, so if philosophy is just a personal confession, what does that mean for morality, for the ideas of good and evil that these philosophies have been selling us for centuries? Well, this takes us right to the core of the book's title.
Now, get ready for this, because it's a wild idea. Nietzsche claims that some of the most useful, most life-promoting beliefs we've ever had have been completely false. And to even begin to think about that, you have to take a step outside of that simple black and white world of good versus evil. You have to go beyond. This is the absolute heart of his critique of morality. What if these concepts weren't handed down from a god or discovered in nature? What if they were just invented, made up, right here on Earth by human beings to serve their own purposes and meet their own needs? So, how does he argue this? Well, Nietzsche says that if you look at history, you can trace our values back to two totally different sources. He calls them master morality and slave morality, and they are two completely opposite ways of seeing the world. Let's break this down. Master morality, that comes from the powerful, the nobles. They look at themselves, their strength, their confidence, and they say, this is good. And anything that's weak or cowardly, they just call it bad. But slave morality starts from the complete opposite place. The weak, the oppressed, they look up at their masters and say, that strength, that pride, that is evil. And so, as a reaction, they decide that their own qualities, pity, kindness, humility, must be what is good. It's a total flip. Now, why is this so important? Because Nietzsche argues that most of our modern values, the things we hold sacred, like compassion and equality, are direct descendants of that slave morality. He claims they were born from resentment, from a kind of clever revenge of the weak against the strong. He forces us to ask a really uncomfortable question. Are our most cherished values a sign of health and strength, or are they a symptom of a long-festering weakness? So, if old philosophies are just confessions and our morality might be rooted in resentment, where on earth do we go from here? Is it all hopeless? Well, for Nietzsche, this is where things actually get exciting. He looks to the future. Nietzsche isn't tearing everything down just for fun. He's clearing the ground for something new. He calls for a new kind of thinker, a philosopher who has the guts to live without the crutch of old certainties and is willing to explore all those dangerous maybes that everyone else is too afraid to touch.
So, what do these philosophers of the future look like? Well, for one, they're not dogmatists. They're not looking for one single truth to rule them all. They're more like experimenters or even artists. They are truly free spirits who see that the old values are crumbling and have the will, the power to create something new in their place.
And this quote just captures their spirit perfectly. This new philosopher won't need a crowd to agree with them. They won't need a god to approve. They will have the strength to stand on their own judgment and declare, this is my truth for me. And they won't try to force it on anybody else. In the end, Nietzsche doesn't give you a new rulebook. He doesn't give you easy answers. What he does is leave you with this incredible, terrifying challenge. Reading him really is like staring into an abyss of questions about who we are and what we value. And his final, unspoken question to you, to all of us, is, do you have the courage to look? And are you ready for what might be looking back?